So my question then stands one more time to you, Dylan. If Do you believe that a transgender woman's a real woman?
Yes.
Okay, if you believe a transgender woman is a real woman, then if they engage in sex with a male, they would be engaging in heterosexual sex. Is that correct?
No, that would be sorry. Yeah, that would be heterosexual sex. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be heterosexual sex.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So then we can cure homosexuality by simply allowing a homosexual to become a woman. Is that correct?
This is the Iranian policy, and it hasn't had much success in the nation of Iran. They've tried this. In the nation of Iran, I somewhat specialize in foreign affairs in the Middle East. What happens is if you are found to be a homosexual, an option that's made available to you is okay, you either get punished or you become a woman. Because there was like a religious debate within Iran, like, is technically this isn't against the religion, so I guess it's okay. And what happens is they do transition, some of them, and you want to know what? That isn't a good life they're living because they don't identify as a woman. If I was right now to just become a woman, I would feel very uncomfortable in my own body. I don't want boobs. I don't want a vagina. I don't want to identify as a woman. I don't feel comfortable using those pronouns. I strongly identify with being a man. The relationships I desire is between a man and another man, not a woman and another man.
Okay, so they would be cured, though.
I mean, in the same way that shooting someone in the head cures them of cancer.
No, not in the same way.
Yeah, well, they no longer have cancer.
Okay, but they're no longer engaging in homosexual sex by your metric, right?
Yeah, and someone shot in the head no longer has cancer.
Yeah, I get it. I get the comparison you're drawing. It just doesn't make any sense. What I'm asking you,
thing makes no sense to me. So
well, it makes total sense.
No, it doesn't.
Homosexuality is the activity of two same-sex people engaging in sexual activity. I can give you every definition under the sun by every authority that you want that proves that that's true.
So if I cut off your dick, would that cure you of heterosexuality since you can't engage in heterosexual sex?
No.
Why not? But you no longer have a penis.
Because I would still have XY chromosomes. So if I engaged in sexual intercourse with a male, they would still be same sex.
So if I just banned you from having sex, would that cure you of it? Like if I just put you in a room, locked you up, would that cure you of that?
I don't know, but by the metric that you're talking about, you're saying they're no longer homosexuals, they're heterosexuals, then they're engaging in heterosexual sex. That's your metric, not mine. My metric is to say that if you're a homosexual and you're engaged in homosexual sex, that you're a homosexual, regardless of what your gender identity is by definition.
Okay, but the thing is, I believe gender identity would impact of whether somebody that is hetero or homosexual sex.
Why?
Because they're a woman.
But by what metric? Is there any quantifiable metric you can give me that they're a woman, or is every definition for homosexual
they identify as a woman?
Okay, but every engagement for homosexual activity is defined as same sex. For instance, if you had two animals who were engaged in same sex, what would you call them? Would you call that homosexual behavior?
Yes.
Okay, you would call that homosexual behavior. But in human beings, if you're engaged in homosexual activity, you're saying it's not homosexual anymore. If you don't identify as being a homosexual,
I assume if the antelope somehow was able to identify as a woman antelope, but this isn't something we see as in animals. So, I mean, as far as we know of, because they don't have the same social characteristics as humans. Humans are much more complex than animals.
Yes, I understand humans are more complex than animals. This is why I'm getting into this with you, because it creates a paradox for your narrative. And it's very bothersome to me that this paradox exists within your narrative, that if you simply identify as something, you are that thing, regardless of what the meaning of that thing actually is. You will see in the private chat, there's a Merriam-Webster definition of homosexual. You'll also see that there's the APA definition of homosexual. You'll also see that there's the Oxford definition of homosexual. Every single one of those definitions of homosexual identify homosexual sex as being between same sex, not between anybody with any type of gender identity. It has nothing to do with identity. It's never had anything to do with identity because there would be no way to measure it then. Identity doesn't mean anything. The social construction that is transgenderism is meaningless.
It definitely has meaning. It has meaning on people's lives. It has an impact on people's lives. There's medical procedures that a lot of times come with that. What do you mean it's meaningless? It's having an active impact on the world.
It's conceptual. So all your
gender is a concept.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean
gender,
but money is also a concept. There's an active impact.
Gender is conceptual. Gender is conceptual. Money, there's metrics for measurement. There's no measurement for gender.
Yeah, it's fluid.
Oh, right. So there's no measurement. The only way that you could measure gender would be qualitatively instead of quantitatively,
Well,
correct?
this would be like mental health issues, right? Like there's no way for me to be like, okay, here's the measure on the depression scale. Let's figure
I
out, are you a
agree.
79 or are you a 2,
Totally
right?
agree.
But that means
Yep.
that doesn't mean depression is not like a real thing. It is something that scientists have been able to measure for a very long time. It has an active impact. This is something that is a reality in our world. Same thing with gender identification and gender dysphoria.
But they've only been able to measure it qualitatively, right?
Um,
So like it's really hard to say that guy's more of a psycho than this guy if they're both psychos. Yeah?
yeah, I mean, it would be pretty impossible for me to say
Yeah, it
that
would
like I'm
be
more of a man than you are. I mean,
right. It's pretty hard. It's a pretty hard
unless you're doing
measurement.
dick
But
measuring, maybe, I don't know.
we have very clear, concise definition of what homosexuals are. You know what a homosexual is. It's a person who's engaged in same-sex activity. Suddenly we've introduced identifiers into it. The identifier of gender, and suddenly these words no longer mean anything according to you, even though every definition that is available by any authority that you want identifies these particular criteria as being same-sex activity. And what we dive into when we get into gender is that you conflate sex and gender, and you spent years trying to deflate that in conservatives. I can completely disassociate both of these concepts. Gender is a social construction. If you say that these are real women, therefore they're no longer homosexuals, even though they're engaging in homosexual sex, you're running into a logical fallacy.
But I don't believe it's homosexual sex.
Well, whether you believe it or not, what's objectively real is that it is by every
Okay.
definable metric
By
that
every
you can come up
definable
with.
metric. Okay, so let's be very clear. I believe that if somebody identifies as a woman and I go and I have sex with them, that's not homosexual intercourse, right? That's not homosexual intercourse. And the reason why is they're a woman. Because I see them as a woman.
Well, that's
They
nice.
identify as a woman. They are a woman.
But what is their sex?
What is their sex?
Yeah.
So okay, so you basically are saying that their chromosomes determine whether it's homosexual or heterosexual.
Not just their chromosomes, but whether or not they produce small or large gametes. In women, that would be ova, and in men, that would be testes.
So are you
right?
saying that if I meet up with, let's say you met up with somebody, Big Papa Fascist. Let's say
Yep.
they're like, I love how you're gonna develop lung cancer from smoking, man. I love how you call yourself Big Papa Fascist on the internet, right? And they're really into you, and they take you home and you slam it, man. Congratulations, man. I'm rooting you on. Then afterwards, you're like, God, I didn't feel their gametes or chromosomes. And then you realize that they had all the body parts, and it was an amazing experience. They're a transgender woman. Did you just engage in homosexual sex?
Yes. By definition.
That is
yes.
so fucking ridiculous to me.
No, but okay. What do those definitions say? What do they say the definition of homosexual sex is? You'll see it in the private chat on the right-hand side. Can you tell me what can you read what they say?
Let's go look at your definitions.
My definitions. These are authoritative definitions by
Okay.
American Psychological Association.
Okay, I get it. The definitions that you provided. Okay, if I provided you a source, I would assume you would say your source. Okay, I think you're being a little nitpicky there.
Okay, I'll concede that to you.
Okay. I have not used it. Where's the chat?
It's on the right.
Private chat on the right-hand side of the screen.
On the chat, exit full. Oh, okay. I had to exit full
Can you
screen.
pull up the APA?
Okay, the
The APA definition.
Sure. Let's go to APA. The American Psychological Association. Sexual
And what
attraction
is it?
between male of the same sex. Though the term can refer to homosexual orientation, both men and women, current practice distinguishes between gay men and lesbians, and homosexuality itself is more commonly referred to as same sexual orientation or activity.
Same-sex activity by the American Psychological Association standard. The American Psychological Association standard is also the same standard that you would use to identify gender dysphoria as now being the standard that you would apply to transgender people rather than how it was classified before as a mental illness to even be transgender, correct?
Let me ask you a question quick. Because you've asked the majority of the questions here, right?
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, you can cross-examine. I have no
I've
problem
got one
with that.
question here. Let's say I agreed with you. Let's say that I dipped my big toe in the Big Papa Fascist pool. Why would this change literally anything about whether I would want them to be represented in media if, according to this definition, that it was homosexual activity? Why would this change anything?
That's the smartest thing anybody on your side has ever asked thus far, right? It may not, except that we could at least begin by having the conversation from a set point of what's real. And so the whole problem that we have on this side of the aisle is that we don't consider what you consider to be a reality to be real. And it seems that we have the definitions in science on our side as to what reality is and isn't objectively, and you do not. So if we could start from a place of you saying that homosexuality is defined as two men having sex, we might be able to actually have a conversation, or two women, any same-sex couple. But by saying that if you put on a wig and some makeup, that suddenly it's no longer a classification for homosexual sex, we have a big problem because we can't agree on reality.
This almost feels like the last 30 minutes was irrelevant then. Because if thing is, I don't agree with the definition. But if we want to work off of a common thing and say it is, since it literally has or appears to until you play your fucking trap card or whatever you have like sitting in your back pocket somewhere, right next to the like pack of Marlboros or whatever, like is gonna pull it out and be like, haha, see, I've tricked you. So let's for a second just live in this reality, because I really wouldn't see how it would change it for a second.
Okay, so how are trans women real women then if they're engaged in same-sex activity?
Because they identify as women.
Okay, but you're working off.
And I'm working off of gender.
I thought you just said you were going to work off of my paradigm. And in my paradigm, you're agreeing that homosexual activity is same-sex activity.
So
you just said
it wasn't okay. So okay, got it. It didn't change it then. Okay, got it. So it wasn't okay. That wouldn't change my even if I accepted this, which I don't, but let's say I did for a moment, that wouldn't change.
Why would you accept what's real? That would be absurd.
I mean, you're the person making up conspiracy theories about Hunter Avalon being funded by Soros or whatever, right? So reality is not really.
I didn't say anything about Hunter Avalon being funded by George Soros.
Who's he funded then? Who's he funded? I want to know.
I don't care about Hunter Avalon.
I'm super curious. I was looking into you. I'm curious. I'm just
stop trying to change the subject and get back into what you're
I'm just curious.
Don't care. Get back to the subject.
Okay, man. Okay, whatever. So that wouldn't change the gender, and I still believe that they are women. They are women.
But they would be women who are engaged in same-sex activity. How would that make sense?
That's what yes, I agree that your thing makes no sense. I agree that your concept makes no sense.
You mean my objectively real concept that's actually true?
I love it when people, you know what? Every statement I'm going to make, I'm going to say, so this is the truth and the objective truth.
I provided evidence, real evidence that what I'm saying is completely true.
Your evidence was Merriam-Webster dictionary.
No, my evidence was the APA, wasn't it?
So another definition.
Let's try to be honest. Let's just try. Did you not read the APA definition for homosexuality?
I just read it on stream. Why are you even asking me?
Okay. So no, it's not Merriam-Webster.
Why are you so pompous?
Is it? Answer the question.
Why are you so pompous?
Because I don't like it when people lie to me.
Like well, I don't. You opened up with you're gonna do this. You're a fucking dirty lefty, and you fucking went up. Like why are you so just generally pompous, man?
Because I'm right, so it's easy to be pompous.
Right wing. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, right and right wing. So back to the subject at hand. We were discussing this issue within the paradigm of what's actually objectively real. Two same-sex people engaged in sexual activity would be homosexual action. So therefore, how could a person become a woman by your definition of gender and not still be engaged in same-sex activity by the American Psychological Association's definition of what that is?
So you would also accept that trans women are real women because that same organization does accept trans women as women, right?
Well, no, definitively they do not. They support that affirmations are very good for transgenders, but they don't support that they're objectively real women. No, they don't. That's not true.
Let's Google that right now, because I thought we were going to be talking about like statistics in children's media or stuff like that.
Well, we can't get. The problem is we can't get to anything unless we can agree on what's real.
Okay. Okay. Going to the API. I believe it's typically associated with the sex to which they assign a birth. Gender identity refers to a person's internal sense being male, female, or something else. Gender expression refers to the way a person communicates gender identity to others through behavior, clothing, hairstyles, voice, body characteristics. Trans is supposed to use as shorthand for transgender. Transgender is generally a good term to use. Everyone's appearance or behavior. Culture.
Where does
Okay.
it say that they're real women, Dylan? Anywhere?
Why would it? I don't think it would say. By the way, everyone, they are real women.
Then why did you just say that it did?
Okay, the same way a dictionary would say women, totally real women. That's not how That's
Well,
not
I
how
know what the
definitions work. That's like
dictionary. I know
car,
what the
totally
dictionary
real
would
car.
say.
That's not how that
I know
works.
what the dictionary would say because I provided you what the dictionary said. So
Remind me of Merriam-Webster.
back to where we're at. Are you gonna
Oh
give me
my
any
fucking!
evidence?
So far,
Are you gonna give me any
okay.
evidence that the authorities by which you
I am
abide, which would
so
be the
fucking
APA, consider these
confused.
people real women?
I am so fucking confused right now. Okay, so right now what you've done is basically you've thrown a bunch of definitions in this way, that way, and this way, and then at the end of it said, "See all these things I just defined? Doesn't make sense, does it?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're not making a lot of sense to me." That's the conclusion I'm taking away from this.
The conclusion that you're taking away is that you define that homosexual activity is not same-sex activity based on a person identifying that they're no longer that sex. That's what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe that homosexual activity, that if I have sex with a trans woman who has all the body parts of boobs, tits, the ass,
Well,
like
what if they don't
everything,
have all the what if they don't have all the body parts?
I don't think that would be it either. Because the thing is, if you think about like
Right.
what it
So it
if
is
you
belief.
think about if you think about it, right? So like would like adding one body part make someone a man or make someone a woman? It doesn't really make
Yes.
sense.
Yes, you can add the body part called testes to make a person a man, just like that.
That's it? That's all it takes?
That's all it takes. Then you produce small gametes. If you
So you're
produce
telling
small
me
gametes, you're a man.
that if Brittany over here in like 50 years from now, like there was some surgery that was done and that happened, then they would be a man now?
If they can produce small gametes, but they would not be able to. And the reason that they would not be able to is because human beings cannot asexually reproduce. She produces ova. So if she produced small gametes and large gametes, she could impregnate herself. So it's in the realm of impossibility, Dylan. You're holding your face like you don't understand these basic concepts that everybody on planet Earth actually understands. The only person who's trying to redefine the relationship of these concepts is people like you, not normal people like myself.
Normal people. Okay.
Yes.
You call yourself Big Papa fascist on the internet. You are the last person who can call themselves normal.
Yeah, I've explained why I call myself Big Papa Fascist
Yes.
on the internet.
And if somebody said, well, you know what, everybody calls me a Nazi, so I'm just gonna call my Jew hater 69. I don't think that makes them very normal. No.
No, yeah, except if a black person uses the N-word, that would be just fine. If they say that the reason that they do is because everyone calls them that, you would probably embrace that just fine. You're full of shit.
No, I think that's
Absolutely, you're absolutely full of shit. You know what the purpose is. You're diverting to the.
I really don't. I just thought you were an open fascist.
You're diverting to the. You're a fascist. You're a fascist because you can't seem to argue this logic.
No,
why can't you argue this?
You said I wasn't normal. Then I said you call yourself a fascist, and now you're saying, "Wow, you call me a racist." You call yourself Big Papa fascist.
So what?
That's not normal.
Really? It's not normal to identify as something differently than most people identify as? That's interesting.
Do you think there's some scientific basis for that? Because there is scientific basis for like gender identity, and there's studies behind that. Is there any studies proving that like you're not a fascist or people call you a fascist a lot? Is there any studies or anything behind that?
I can't prove a negative.
Why are we not talking about children's media? I was ready for a good discussion of children's media.
And we can still
why don't we get
and
back
we can
into
still
that?
dive into children's media, but it's very important. And the reason I said that these concepts needed to be tied together is because what use is it to discuss what the impact on society of children's cartoons will be if we can't agree on what's fucking real? Can you answer that for me, Dylan?
I you know what? I will say right now. Okay, 1 second. Give me a moment because I'm trying to go through these APA stuff because I was ready for discussion on children's media. I was not ready for a discussion on fucking if you can cure homosexuality through sex change operations. Okay.
These are things that you advocate for daily, and you're not ready to discuss them.
You know what? I'm ready for. Okay, let me ask you a question. You discuss all these things daily, right? Okay.
No,
you
I
don't.
don't.
You don't discuss politics daily.
No.
If I
have a real job. I do real things. I'm the Omega Chad, man. I do
Omega
real
Chad
stuff all day. Yes. Real stuff.
You smoke.
Real things.
You're smoking on the internet. You're drinking alcohol on the internet.
And you openly talk about gay sex on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you end up with these
I don't know how you can
great
be.
moral
You're the mega
paradigms,
Chad.
Dylan.
You're the mega Chad going on the internet. Ha ha ha. I have debated and mega dominated on the internet. I am the real life mega Chad.
Uh-huh. And
Dude,